Yo dog, Kenny Boucher here, Next Level Painting, hitting you up with a very special painting tutorial. Rhinos. They are simple, yet so annoying if you don't have an airbrush. And you need dozens of them. You find yourself in the Beats laboratory mixing down these army lists that have all these rhinos in them that you don't have, and that you're like, oh, I gotta paint some rhinos. Well, they're one of the easiest things to paint. And because they're easy, there's a lot of cool things you can do to make them look awesome and look next level. So we're gonna be doing some awesome highlights, some edge highlighting, some smooth airbrushing, and we're gonna work our way into some other cool effects. But before I show you that, let's talk about the longboard.net. Don't forget, all these videos are a week early on the longboard.net. It's an ad-free experience. It's only $5.99 a month. You also gain access to the Beats Laboratory download section, talking all the freshest army lists. And when I say fresh, I don't mean net lists, I mean fresh. We got all the freshest concepts, all the newest, most innovative ways of playing 40K, and everything always has a bringing hobby back feel. Please try a week for free. All right, enough of the sales pitch, let's jump right into it. Let's do this thing. How to paint a Space Wolf themed rhino. We're gonna go a little bit, extreme on this. And the first thing you're gonna notice is that it's already primed. I primed it with Army Painter. I wanna say it's called Wolf Gray, but we all know it's supposed to be Space Wolf Gray. So I'm going in with my Vallejo paler blue colors that I've been doing a lot of lately. And I'm gonna come in there and I'm gonna subtly airbrush these highlights in, and they're pretty simple on a box like this. I just bring them in the perimeter. Super simple. I don't like to overthink it. A lot of people give me shit online about, oh, that's not a realistic highlight. Look, man, I want to paint my tanks realistic, then I wouldn't even play this game. Like I'm literally playing a game with dudes with chainswords and laser pistols. Like, you know what I mean? Like, get out of here. I want my stuff to look as fantastic as possible. So we start building these highlights in, and build them in however you want. But like I said, I like to go outer perimeter of the box and a little bit, centralized in the middle sections. And this is a very subtle transition. This is exactly the same colors we used on the Thunderwolf guys. Like all that whole armor combination. I love the Armor Painter Space Wolf Gray. It's such a good beginning color, really good neutral. And what is interesting is that it's not the darkest I'm going to take this vehicle. It's more of the mid-tones. That's a little bit more advanced airbrushing. It's usually a lot simpler to start with the darkest color and work your way up. But here we're going to start with this Wolf Gray is the mid-tone. We're adding a very subtle highlight to it of a different color, of a different make and different model. Like this paler blue that I have is a very subtle highlight. Like you see, they're super similar in color, but they do have a pigment change, and so that makes things more interesting when there's a different pigment to it. So as we work this very subtle highlight up, we're gonna just slide right into using white. Mix a little white in with that blue. Come on and just do a little bit more extreme highlight. You don't wanna go super beast here. You wanna just kinda get maybe to the center of those planes you just highlighted to give it that pop. You don't wanna just wipe out all that highlighting with a new brighter highlight, because that just makes it extreme and it makes it no transition. Because this is about the brightest we're going to go with the airbrush. Anything brighter than this we're going to do with a paintbrush. As you can see, we're getting some really interesting pops. It's looking almost metallic in its steely blue, in a steely blue kind of way. These are you want to start getting careful though. You'll notice that I'm holding it inside the hatch. You don't want to be touching this subtle of an airbrush even with a glove on. You want to try to hold it in a way like I'm holding it by the tracks that I'm not painting yet. Be careful. Your fingers can actually undo a really soft powdery airbrush coat like this. Bring in that white, bring in that new mix, subtly transition. I'm going top to bottom on the side panels and bring them in center, middle of the highlight on the center on the top. So you're getting a totally different look here. This is how and they're not realistic. Like, this is what I'm saying. People, oftentimes give me shit about this. It's like, yes, it's not realistic. I literally don't care. They look fun. It looks fun. It's therapeutic almost. You know what I mean? Like, it's absolutely a hobby still. I'm enjoying myself. I'm not like overthinking anything. So here is what we have. We have this very simple Rhino, and now we're gonna come in with a gray. And you're gonna see that I'm using a dark gray. It's a custom mix. We used it in the previous videos. And I'm finding that center hole in the tank, where that hatch goes, and I'm dropping a little bit of that dark gray off around it. So like we have a neutral gray, which I said before is the Space Wolf gray army painter. We highlighted it up 2 times. And I'm going back and I'm gonna darken some of the areas at the very bottom of the tank here on the side panels, just very subtly, on those hatches on the top, and in a couple of spots on the front of the tank here. This is just very subtle, and this color is a mix of a lot of colors. I've used black, electric blue, and a couple other colors that I can't remember at this point, but experiment, make your own colors. This is a gray that I put a lot of faith in. If you go back and watch the Thunderwolf Cavalry videos, you'll see me use all these colors over and over again. Great colors. So now that we have gone to a dark spot, we've mid-tone, highlights, and dark tones, and shadows, etc. We're gonna start doing some interesting things we haven't explored yet. And we're gonna start using the airbrush and a game add-on, like essentially a game add-on. I'm using just a little random piece of paper I have, and I'm covering the area of the tank I don't want the paintbrush, I don't want the spray paint to go, or the airbrush, and I'm doing a highlight there in that little Rhino flap, that visor flap. And now I'm covering the flap and the area underneath it, and I'm highlighting that little quarter panel at the bottom, making it brighter. I'm doing this because I want there to be hard beginnings and ends to my highlights. I don't want them to bleed into each other here. I want there to be that transition, and you can see we're getting a lot more pop out of it. Now I'm gonna do the same thing, but with a little bit of white mixed in. So it's even more, just like we did on the rest of the tank. We hit it with that lighter blue and with a little bit of white. And this really is gonna start driving home the effect I'm talking about here. Experiment with this. This is a really fun thing to do on your tanks to get some amazing hard edges. I'm doing it on the lights now, the headlights. Gonna cover a lot of the area around it and just kind of subtly drop off a little bit of white airbrush mixed in with that blue. You can see it's a super simple trick that adds a lot of fun angles to your tank. Like, that's the word I'm looking for. It gives you those straight up angles. But to complete the effects, you don't just want to stop there. You want to come in and you want to hit every possible thing. And what we're doing here is we're going in with the dark gray, and we're doing the reverse edge of those areas we just highlighted. You can see here now we're getting a much cleaner angle. Like, it's starting to look metallic. We're gonna come in and we're gonna do this in as many places as we think will make the tank look cool. There's a good shot of it right there. You can see exactly what I did. But now we're gonna come in and clean up that dark shadow with another little clean edge highlight with the white, just to give it that boom, that pop. There it is. It looks glorious to me. Don't ask me if it's realistic or not, because I'll tell you I don't care if it's realistic or not. I like the way it looks. It makes me happy to have a tank with these kind of clean lines, this kind of just sharpness. Like, it looks so sharp to me. I love it. And you can experiment with this for days on these Space Marine tanks, because they have all these flat angles, really sharp angles, really lend themselves to this effect. And you can see, of course, I'm not just painting one Rhino. I never just paint one. I'm painting 4. This is part of the next level process. This is a quantity and quality system. So, obviously it doesn't matter if you only paint one vehicle. You want to paint them all. So let's jump right into the paintbrushing. We're going to go and highlight the shit out of this tank now. And one of my favorite things to do here is drop the highlight off on the dark edge of some of these areas, because that's how you make things look like they're reflective. We're using that same pale blue, and we're going in and we're just going to do some subtle 90-degree highlights like we do. Real subtle, real easy. Drop them in there. Not going to edge highlight everything, just what we think we need to. this will really begin to sharpen up the tank. I mean, it's going to start looking in focus now. Like it's going to look like it was washed out before. Hit all these edges you just highlighted, just adding to it. And of course, this is a predecessor, because as I've shown you before, every time we pull out this pale blue, we're going to do some white right after it. Like, it's get in the habit of doing two highlights when you're in this situation. Go through, pick out those spots. And this is fun right here. I'm actually painting this part of the tank upside down, and you'll see that I just keep getting my stroke off. I just keep messing it up. So I'm going to show you a technique. I'm going to wet blend this thing. The highlight is way thicker than I want it to be. I did not want it to be that big, but now I have to go in there and fix it. So I'm going to start adding some water. You can see I messed it up again. I'm going to start adding water, almost no paint, and I'm going to start feathering out what little paint we have still wet on there, feathering it out into the main area of that visor, giving you a much more subtle transition. It's not as skinny as I wanted, but now we saved it, especially when we come in with some white, we're going to be able to make that look like I meant to do that. And here it is, like it's starting to look like I meant to do it, right? And here's some white. Come in, cut them in the angles, come in extreme with the white. Don't go over mode with the thickness of the lines. Like, some of these lines are a little thicker than I want them to be, but I'll clean them up. So that's the only way I can show you guys on camera what I mean. And then I'll come in there and I'll clean them up a little bit with that same technique I just showed you. And of course, I'll show you what the result looks like. Come in and this is where not being lazy is going to pay off. You're going to want to come in there and just everything that you don't want to paint, basically you have to paint. That's the rule of thumb. And that's what I'm talking about. Highlighting the dark side of those transitions right there above the tracks is what really helps you give you that reflective quality to the paint job. I love it. Take your time. Be methodical here. I know this is not one of those processes, man. You just cannot rush this. If you want to have a good edge highlight, you gotta be slow, you gotta be steady. The tank is coming out exactly as I envisioned it, and I'm very happy so far. We got a lot more to do though. I mean, this is only step one. We got much more highlighting to do. Got to hit all those headlights. Got to hit the side hatches. I mean, it's all about the details. Whatever detail you can pull will be. I mean, everything you think you shouldn't do. Like I said, I got to reiterate that. If it looks annoying, it is annoying, but I promise you, it's gonna make the tank look good. Just got to focus on keeping your eye on the prize. Even though it's just a 35-point Rhino and it almost doesn't mean anything, you still want it to look as good as the rest of your army. That's just the love of the hobby. And of course, you'll notice I left the Stormbolter off and the Copula off and the top hatches off because I'm going to paint those all separately. I'm going to literally paint the Stormbolter and the Copula with silver spray paint and then wash them and dry brush them and then throw some details on them. But the top hatch, I have something special in mind, and I'll show you guys that in the next video, of course. This video is mainly just focusing on painting the Rhino, getting the base colors up, and getting the base highlights up of the body, And just like we did before, now we're coming in with pure white, and we're popping out those highlights we just laid down with the paintbrush on all those little ridges. This is, like I said, you can't forget to do this. This is a little bit of just pure white, that final, pop toward the unrealistic, I guess, toward the extreme. And I love it. It's one of my favorite things. Extreme highlighting. I used to call it hyper highlighting technique back in the day. This is a little bit more subtle than hyper highlighting because we have a lot of transitions because of the airbrush, but it's still really fun. As usual, coming to a close. Next week, we'll talk about the hatches, maybe the tracks, maybe some weathering. We've got a couple more things to talk about here. In the meantime, thanks for checking out this video. Thanks for checking out that video. Don't forget, I've got tons of other tutorials in the archives, and I do this every week for free. If you're looking for an ad-free experience, check out thelongwar.net. All these videos come out a week early with exclusive access and exclusive downloads and ad-free. Also, check out my best friend Rob Bear at Spiky Bits, and of course the Long War YouTube channel for all the freshest battle reports. Thanks for watching.